Okay, good evening, everybody, and thank you for joining us. Okay, I want to call together the Finance Committee meeting for today. So we'll open with a roll call. I have Trustee House is present, Trustee Steve,
Present.
Trustee Brown.
Present.
Okay, 3 ayes, and we have a quorum. We're going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Let's remain standing for a moment just so we can do the prayer. Heavenly Father, we just thank you for this day. We bless this day. We bless the hearts, minds, and spirits in this room. Ask that we're all here for the good of the village adult, that we could continue to move forward accordingly. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
Okay, so with that intro, we have one agenda item, and we did that because there's a lot to kind of dive into. So I'm going to start off with the FY 2023 budget. One item that I want to bring up on, I guess, in housekeeping, but maybe for a discussion, I want to kind of put out there just to express some of the thoughts or maybe what could be frustrations, but also at the same time, I want to make sure that we get it in a productive or cordial manner. So one area that I would say that from the board's perspective, and I'll ask other board members, the committee members to chime in too, is that we want to make sure as quickly as possible, I was talking some with the finance director, the timing of getting information and reports. This meeting today, if I understand correctly, our administrator and the finance director will be available today until 6:30. We believe there's going to be more that goes into here. So we want to figure out what the right way is that for us to all have communication in a way that we can make the most of our time and the most productive. Many times we come to the board meetings and we talk about reports coming at the last minute and things like that, and it becomes a big, it becomes worse than it should be. I'll say that. So, and I'll mention that by way of today, we would like to, in the future or moving forward, have meetings that we can get everything accomplished in one meeting. We did get some updates or revisions today, and so I really just kind of want to speak or get input from the staff on what things we can do to kind of have a better communication flow, better flow of information that we can kind of digest it quickly. So I'll just kind of want to get feedback on that so that we can openly figure out what needs to happen so we can try to avoid future miscommunications if I can. So I kind of want to maybe get feedback from either administrator or finance director.
Is that like?
I guess it's a question, just what things we need to do so that we can get reporting in a manner that's a little bit that makes our meetings more productive.
So I think that the first thing we should talk about, if we're talking about communication, is just the expectation level in which we can get the information to you guys in a proper manner, and then you guys being able to take that information, and if that information is digested properly and or improperly with a certain amount of time, maybe as opposed to the political conversation that obviously we have nothing to do with, maybe the conversation should be more like, hey, listen, we did receive this information. We did not have enough time. Let's go ahead and table it and move on. And then that way, maybe we can have a dialogue later on. We understand what's going on politically, but we don't want to be involved in it. And sometimes the expectations you guys may have, based on some of the, from a political standpoint, you guys have, there are employees that are involved. There are employees that may not be able to get us things a certain way. There may be employees can't get us things within a certain amount of time, or maybe they can't deliver things in a certain manner. As opposed to making it political commentary, maybe we just move on. Say, hey, listen, we didn't receive this within this amount of time, and okay, we'll take it under advisement. Let's schedule a date to revisit this particular thing, or let's table it to the next meeting. That would be better for my staff to be able to better help you guys and open the lines of communication. I think the second thing, which would be incredibly important, is maybe depending on what's on the agenda, maybe what we do is we set a comprehensive
schedule, right, to review things. Perfect example. It may take me a little bit longer to review ordinances, right, and legal documentation than it does for me to review financials, because I'm a finance guy. And so I understand the frustration that you guys may have in terms of getting something and maybe have a weekend to deal with it. That is typically how things are done in a municipality. Again, I've worked in several of them. And so the amount of time that you guys need to review, maybe if there's a comprehensive schedule, or a better and or proper timetable, then that's fine. I think the last thing is that if you guys receive something, again, this goes back to the sort of the political commentary, is that, hey, if you got this at a specific time, let us know what the intention is before we get to the board meeting. Perfect example. Trustee Steve pulled out his phone the last meeting and said, hey, listen, I just got this at 3:44. Okay, I know when you got it because I was CC'd on the email. Had you responded with, hey, listen, I'm just letting you guys know that I received this at 3:44, and my intention is to let you guys know that I need more time to review. So that's fine. So when we go in the meeting, if you say, hey, listen, I need more time to review, and you're looking for somebody to maybe agree with what you said, and or maybe say, hey, listen, I agree with whatever that is, maybe make mention of that in the email. Again, everybody's working on tight deadlines. We had a period in time where we did not have board meetings at the same time. And so, again, everybody knows what the political climate is here, right? Our goal is to do a job, regardless of what that is. We want to do a good job of it. Some things are lost in translation. We have a new finance director. We have new staff. We have reduced hours for our accounting firm. And also, they have personal things that are going on, the people that are, have been working with us for years with our accounting firm. So a lot of the information that you guys are asking, especially financial information, is being delivered to us later than you guys think. I would just say that it's a better way to communicate than, the back and forth. But again, I'm saying it respectfully because we don't pay attention to it anyway. We just do our job.
Okay. And I receive one question, and then I'll open for board comment, but I do want to make sure that we use the best amount of our time as well getting into the budget. The one thing I would ask, if it's fair, is from a communication standpoint, would it be fair for the board to anticipate or expect just a response for email? If I email something today with a 24-hour response time, would that be a fair
Absolutely. If you guys want a response time within 24 hours, then whether we have an answer or not, we will respond.
Thank you. With that, any comments from committee members?
Yes. I understand, I guess, we here, we want to be politically correct and talk about politics, but it's not like we're asked to vote on things and we're getting it the day of. When did you get the updated budget?
I got it today.
Today.
Once I met with, I had an earlier meeting with the police chief, and it was given to me then because I asked for it.
And Trustee House, how long have you been asking for the updated budget, the things you've been asking for?
Well, it's been asked for about 2 to 3 weeks.
2 to 3 weeks. So Jason House, he requests stuff through email. All of us don't, but the finance chair did, and we just get it today. So you use the instance where I said I got this at 3 o'clock. That's the truth. But it was not like we're not getting berated by why we don't know. My response is after we're getting berated about how come we're not voting on it today, you have it. No, we just got it today. And you work in different municipalities. You telling me, every municipality gave this stuff, gave the board stuff the day of to vote on?
Yes.
That's every municipality done that. I work in other municipalities. They don't do that. The municipalities that you worked in, but the ones I see, they give the people a fair amount of time to look over the budget, and then the mayor doesn't request them to make a vote on it that day, the day of. This is not reality. So if we're going to be truthful and transparent here, I understand that people don't want to get into the political game, but when you partake in the political game, intentionally don't give us stuff that we ask for and then ask us to pass at the last minute, it's unacceptable. That's the reality of what we're dealing with. It's hard to say, I don't want to get into politics. Every employee here is in politics. Everybody. Unfortunately, what happens is that's sometimes the casualty of war. I was part of that before. I got X'd out of a budget before. I've been there before. But a lot of times it's the head and the trustees trying to work together. But if the trustees are asking for certain things and we're getting it last minute, it shouldn't be on us to say, oh, gee, I got to communicate. No, just send us stuff that we asked for. That's all we asked. He asked for 2-3 weeks for something we just got today. And we can't put that on, you can put that on the fan, whoever we put it on, but just get the stuff that he asked for, and we just got it today.
Mr. Chair, may I respond respectfully?
Yeah, I want to make one comment, but then I'll ask it, I'll do that. Just one thing on there too, because I do want to make sure we do not evolve into the into what we have in the board meeting. So I mean, I appreciate the comments, Administrator. I know comments were made, so I'll allow for a response. But then I do want to ask if we, if the points have been made that we kind of push forward.
I agree, Mr. Chair. I think that is exactly what I was trying to avoid. Respectfully, Trustee Steve, I understand how you feel. That has nothing to do with what we discussed. We discussed timetables, we discussed communication, and we're trying our best to make sure that for whatever reason, we address those particular situations so we can resolve our challenges and move on. I understand the challenges that you have, but respectfully, I'd like to make sure that we address whatever changes that we're gonna make so we can communicate better. I think the second thing is that just creating a budget and understanding the timeline of a budget. The budget may change in the next 5 minutes. Respectfully, we'll try to get it to you as much as we can when we make changes, as much as we can. The budget may change when we get ready to go home tonight. We may have some additions, some subtractions. I think that everybody needs to be flexible until we're ready and have a document that is ready to be, passed by you guys. And if you guys will allow for us to have that type of flexibility, we will continue to give you guys updates. It may not be in the manner in which you expect, but I think that the goal for this particular meeting is to create whatever those goals, whatever those timelines are for this particular budget. If I'm correct in saying so, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you for the feedback. I am gonna kind of shift a little bit on here so we can go into the budget. I believe if we're looking out on a timeline of 6:30ish to be respectful of the requests made, I do feel that we'll likely need to convene another meeting to get through additional information. So if we're able to get that dialogue within the 24-hour time frame, I think we can coordinate a time that is better suited. But I guess maybe ask for the committee as well. Do we want to take the next time that we do have to dive into this budget, or would we like to maybe just try to schedule something that we can go through it all at one shot? So I'll ask kind of feedback from the committee.
I would say that we should probably schedule another time because, again, 30 minutes will not allow us to be able to ask questions and also the residents to ask questions. So I suggest that we schedule another date because 30 minutes is not enough time for us to be able to ask questions and get answers.
Okay, Trustee Steve, your thoughts?
I agree.
Okay, so I think for best use of time on here, and then 2 questions that I'll ask from our Administrator and our Finance Director. One would be if maybe we find a date right now. If I don't know if you have your calendars available, we could find something that we can coordinate to host the future meeting. And the second would be if the information that we have can be the current proposed draft budget can be put on the website and accessible for residents. I've heard from some residents that have mentioned that they have not had an opportunity as well to have questions. I would ask if those 2 things can be done.
Yes, sir. We'll post it on the website. And the second answer to your question is, if you would allow so, and I think this may be something for the Finance Chair to chime in, is there a way that we could schedule the meetings a tad bit earlier? I know that she and I both have scheduling conflicts around this time. Neither one of us have someone to go and pick up our children. So this is just a tough time usually. And again, this is why I apologize I was late. I have to drop my child off with the grandparents and then come back to here for a meeting. This is why we have the meetings that's why the board meetings are more conducive for our schedules and not a 5:30 meeting or a 6:30 meeting. Am I correct in saying that, Ms.
Okay.
Finance?
So is your ask for the time to be pushed back to 6:30 or something earlier in the day?
Either it can be pushed back to 6:30 or it could be something earlier. I think we prefer something earlier. We may not be able to reach all of the residents, but if there's a way we can figure out, I don't know if you guys want to do a Q&A online or something. Maybe we can do, maybe we can be here and have it here, but we can have something virtual too. What do you think, Mrs. Finance Director?
Definitely during the day, or maybe a virtual option for questions.
Ask committee feedback.
I would prefer in person earlier.
6:30 is better for me. 6:30
Okay.
in the evening is better for me.
Okay, I'm gonna go on the side of 6:30 as well, so, sorry.
Hey, I'm flexible.
Okay.
I'm free all day.
All right, so no, would next week, Wednesday, 6:30 be amenable to the schedules for staff?
I can do, I'm sorry, go ahead. I can do next week. So, Tuesday and Wednesdays are tough for me. If we did Wednesday, it would have to be later than 6:30. I can't do 6:30. Maybe, what's your schedule look like? She's not available Wednesday. So, and then Thursday is tough for me too. Friday, there is a community meeting at 6 p.m. So possibly after that or possibly before that, there's a watershed meeting. We just got the information, we have to reschedule it. So there's a watershed meeting at 6 p.m. Maybe after the
What's the date?
Friday the 3rd, there's a watershed meeting. So maybe after the watershed meeting?
Friday the 3rd at
6:30?
6:30. I want to ask too, I mean, with this all being done, the intention, is there an intention or a desire to get this, well, that will not make it palatable,
Or
achievable for a budget to be on the next agenda. I guess that's where I'm going with it. I think we still have a lot to dive in, so I think next meeting is still going to be kind of challenging from the onset, but if we do it on the 3rd, it's a definite want.
If not, then we can push it back. Is the intention of the board to pass the budget by the next board meeting, which would be June, 7th?
Well, I don't think that was the intention of the board, but I think the mayor's desire, I think we said at the last meeting that there's well, I think that there may be conflicting desires, I'll say that. So
Okay.
I just want to put on record that it's less likely that June 6th will be, and hopefully we don't have something on the agenda to create additional controversy.
Then I would say, can we push it out to the 8th, Madam?
Okay, does Tuesday the 8th work for your schedule, trustee?
I think the Wednesday is the 8th.
Oh, Wednesday the 8th?
Yes.
Wednesdays are always good for me, better for me.
Okay. All right, so what we'll do is we'll
Is that good for you?
reconvene this
No?
one
Wednesdays are
for,
bad? Okay, so Wednesdays are bad days.
Is there any, excuse me, is there any,
Will-
will any
So-
department heads, or just you all presenting the budget, will any departments come here and present their budget, anything to the board and to the committee?
I think the conversation today, outside of scheduling, should be the expectation of how the budget is presented. Again, typically from my experience, we may not necessarily do things, or I may not necessarily do things the way that you guys do things. So I think maybe if we set some expectations now, while we got about a half an hour, then I can know how better to direct my departments, and create a strategy so you guys can, have the budget presented the way that you guys want to.
well, yeah, what I think I'll do, let's see if we can nail down the date, and then I'll talk with the board members, the committee and board members on any department heads that they may want to request as well, and follow up communication accordingly.
Okay.
But, so were we stuck on the 8th, and I shouldn't say stuck, are we on,
I was stuck on the 8th.
so is the 8th the day that we are okay with?
I'm okay with the 8th. Are you okay with the 8th?
Okay, so we'll schedule for Wednesday the 8th, 6:30 p.m. Any other additional comments from committee members? If not, I'll just ask for public comment. Okay, hearing none, we'll open up for public comment or citizens address for any residents that have questions or comments for this committee. My apologies. I have a couple other trustees I want to acknowledge, Trustee Belcher, Trustee Norwood. So I think you heard some most. I'll see if any of the trustees have comments, and then I'll open for public comment. Any comments from Trustee Norwood, Belcher? Mike, and then we come with the former Trustee Stubbs. I see former Trustee Pearson as well. So we have acknowledgement.
And I'm just pretty much asking, I always ask for clarity, just so, in case residents are unsure. I know I'm in the audience, and I just want to make sure I took everything down. So I know that we're rescheduling it, correct? Because you all had to find a time where the administrator and the finance director can also join, so we can go over the budget thoroughly, correct? So
Yes.
the reason why we didn't complete it is because we don't want to start it and not have a chance to finish it.
Correct.
Okay, and did we confirm the date for the 8th? We all are sure that date will work for them, and have we confirmed that you all will be able to go over the entire schedule on that day? Because I know that you all stated that that was an issue.
We've confirmed that the 8th would be the best day for us to be available. I have not confirmed that with any of the department heads or anyone else. I'll have that conversation with them after we know that, after this meeting's over.
Okay, and then I know that before, earlier in the conversation, the question was asked in regards to, just for you all, and I just want clarity. You all were stating that from now on, moving forward, within 24 hours, we can expect a response from the administrator, when we ask for information, because I know.
With regards to the information, yes, we'll respond whether or not we have the information available. We'll give you, say, hey, instead of me waiting until I have information for you to respond, what I'll say is, I am gathering said information. Please allow me between this particular time to this particular time to gather the information. If I cannot, then I'll respond to you and let you know the possible date that I'll have whatever information you're requesting.
Okay, and I'm just asking mainly because I heard earlier, it's a concern, of course, right? And I heard the question say, how can we as trustees be assured that we'll start receiving information in time? Because I think that the problem is just the communication barrier in regards to when we're asking. We're just saying, hey, I know we received the updated budget today, and I know you're like, hey, well, things could change at any time. That's what you're saying. You're saying things could change at any time, and it's not us that's changing it per se. It's just that you can expect that until something is passed. Is that what you're stating?
Budgets are working documents, so we may have an idea of what we want. You may have an idea of what you want. The goal is that to get everybody's opinion and to get the budget where the council wants it, right? Everybody that's in the council, to make sure that the department heads have the resources that they need and find that fine line, right? It changes all the time. I've seen budgets change, the day that you're gonna pass the budget. So the goal is just to have the conversation, and as we are updating and making changes, then we will constantly send you guys updated information. You guys will have an opportunity to review whatever that information is in whatever time frame and or manner you guys see feasible. I think the question that everyone has right here in terms of communication is feasibility, right? What is your expectation of how we go about this process? Is it every time we change a line item, give you a call, send you an email? Is it every 24 hours or every 48 hours you guys want to update? Is it every 3 days? What is the expectation of the council in terms of when we're making adjustments to budgets? When you guys send us adjustments for the budgets, what's the expectation that we make those revisions, right?
Okay.
This process to me would seem, because there's so many moving parts and there's so many people involved, it would seem to me like the best way to sort of approach this is to maybe have a conversation with the finance chair, and he can, sort of direct us as to how he would like to be updated, and maybe he can pass the information to you guys. That would be my recommendation. But again, I think it's a conversation to be had about what the expectations are. Because again, I understand the budget is a long document. I understand it's a ton of money. I understand how important it is. It's taxpayer dollars. But the goal is that when we get you guys something, if there is a period in time in which you need to review it, then we give you guys the amount of time that you guys need. There's certain things that can help those things along. As we're making changes, do you need the document highlighted, right? Do you need section A, this was changed per this person? Again, a lot of it has to do with just, you guys have it, you guys got a chance to look at it, What are you guys' expectations in terms of making changes? Are you guys gonna do it as a council? Are you guys gonna do it as individuals, right? There's a lot of things that happen. You may say, hey, listen, I wanna change line item X, Y, and Z to this, right? Trustee House may say, I wanna change line item this to this. You guys may be in agreement before we even get to here. What we feel like would be good communication is to get whatever those changes are before we even get here, right? That's the conversation. That's the conversation we need to have about how we communicate. And again, what is a feasible timeline, and making sure that you guys understand that we're trying our best. We have capacity issues, but we are trying our best, and we just want to get it to you in a timely manner, right?
Okay, because, and I'm asking, because I'm from I'm wearing two hats here, right? From a trustee perspective, as you stated earlier, it gets, your question is, how often should we be updated? So just to answer that question, from a trustee's perspective, I feel as if when changes are made, it would be nice. I'm not asking that you contact the whole board, because I understand that could be time consuming. But when there is a change, I do think that the proper measures will be to contact the finance director so that he can contact us.
The finance chair?
The finance chair,
Okay.
so that he can contact us to make us aware. Okay. And the changes are important to us as trustees, of course, because if something changes, we, like for instance, today, the updated budget that we received is different from the last one. Correct. So I had residents calling me saying, hey, well, what budget are we voting on tonight? And then when I look and see that we have an updated one, and then there's an older one, it's like from a resident's perspective or from a trustee's perspective, I can't answer their questions. Okay. So it looks to them as if I'm either avoiding a question or as if I really don't know. And that's where, from a trustee standpoint, it gets frustrating, because it's like, if there is a change, just notify us so that we are aware, so that when residents do come to us and ask us, we're informed. Because it's our job to be informed. And to be able to answer their questions. Now, from a resident's perspective, for years I've been keeping up with the budgets, and I know that this process is totally different than what we've always done in the past. Normally, as a resident, I'll look forward to receiving information in regards to the budget hearing. We'll go over it, the budget will be released. I'll have time to go over it. They'll have a hearing. All the residents will attend the hearing so that they can ask questions then, and they'd have that time to digest the information prior to the hearing, so they know what questions to ask. We'll go over it together, and then we'll proceed with finalizing the budget. So I know that from a resident's perspective, things are all the way changed, but from a trustee's perspective, I just want to know how we can get on one accord, so that when something does change, I just want you all to know the importance for us to know certain information when residents do call and ask. Because we don't want to look crazy either, as trustees, when they have questions and things are changed and we're not notified. Okay. So just to answer that, and I did hear you say that you all will make those changes. So moving forward, I'm appreciative of you all saying, hey, we will start making sure that we get to you all in a timely manner. Even if there isn't information, like you stated, Will, sometimes we don't know the answer. Just let us know that, so it doesn't look as if you all are ignoring us or avoiding us. And I think that is that. But you all did state that you are going to put the updated budget on the website, so that the residents can have time to look at everything prior to our next budget meeting.
So
correct?
the only thing that I would request is like similar government agencies of this size, is that we release revisions when we're going to have meetings, right? We're making adjustments all the time. Usually revisions are released when you're going to have a meeting, whether it be a finance meeting or whether it be a board meeting, right? You release the revisions, you give people a time to digest it, and the reason why you do it is because whatever those revisions are is a working document for whatever that meeting is going to be. You're going to constantly make revisions, like, unless the goal is just to pass the budget all at once at one time, then the next time we get ready to have a finance meeting, whatever changes that are going to be made will be on the next revision. The next revision to be published prior to that meeting, so people can have an opportunity to take a look at it, digest it, and then say, hey, listen, we're going to make these changes. And then the next revision will be maybe available at the next council meeting, or whatever the next meeting is going to be. And again, as we're making these revisions, that way you're not releasing a different revision every single day, like revision 2.1, 2.2, 2.3, 2.4. If that makes any sense.
And I'm following, I think maybe for the most, if we can have the most current one posted, and then I would say you and I could kind of talk through the timeline on revisions and things like that.
I'm fine with that.
Thank you.
Okay, and then I just have one last question. Is there a particular reason, I don't know who, I think Freeman, you would be the one to ask. Is there a particular reason why things are different in regards to the budget is normally? So normally line items will be specified, it'll be itemized. It'll say, okay, we're allotting $100,000 for police department, for police. And then you'd have $10,000 for this officer, $10,000 for that officer. I noticed that part of my frustration with receiving the budget and going over it is it's different from even last year, where last year's was even, as a trustee, when I went over it, it was itemized, so I knew exactly what I was voting on. And based on some information that we just received at our last meeting, as regards to the importance of the itemized and that amount, because the attorney did specify to us that, hey, that amount that we specify for each individual is important.
Right.
But in this case, with this new budget, we don't really have itemized lines. Is there a reason why we're doing it different, or is that who decided to make that change?
So a couple things. I just want to explain the difference between what we pass and what we have. So you guys are referring to a budget and appropriation as if they're the same thing. That's not the case. An appropriation is the ordinance, and that's each individual category is summarized, and then we pass whatever that is. We send that to the comptroller's office. Everything else is considered an exhibit, and it's part of this internal budget that we have. That's what all the individual line items, right? And so the appropriation is what the state, the county, and the Fed uses to say, hey, listen, this is what their particular expenditures are going to be, their revenues and expenses, and this is what they're going to levy taxes for. Right? We don't pass a budget. The budget is the internal working documents. We made changes to the internal working documents, not to not give you guys the information. We gave you the information. We made changes to the appropriation because the appropriation is what we're sending to the state. The internal working document is what Tangenique is giving you guys a breakdown of, so you guys can have a copy of that. And that will be the expectation of the internal working document. The appropriation and the budget are not the same thing, and so I try not to mix up those two things. I think Trustee House probably understands that. You guys may be familiar with that, but what is considered an appropriation and what is considered a budget are two different things. So I just want you to be aware of that. But everything that you guys requested, we are working on, and you may receive that as soon as tonight. I don't know, but I'll make sure I have a conversation with the finance director and with the rest of the finance team and see when you guys will get a copy of that, because you guys will be receiving a copy of that. But that is, again, not a part of the appropriation. That is part of the budget, and we pass an appropriation, not a budget.
Got it. And thank you for actually distinguishing the two, so just for everyone. And that's I'm glad you stated that, because that's what I was wondering. Prior to me approving a budget, will we receive that? Because I still didn't.
Absolutely.
I know that prior to me moving forward, I'd like to know itemized, no matter how we decide to do it in regards to appropriation or budget. I'd just like to know what line is being specified for what amount.
Yes, ma'am.
So that's the information that you said that you're going to get to me, correct?
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
okay.
ma'am.
I think that is it for me.
And just to just maybe a little clear, because as we talk about it, the internal working document, I think we were both on the same page, just using different terminologies.
Okay.
The internal working document when we're talking when referencing the budget, that's generally the one we were speaking of, but I think we want to make sure we got that separately. Secondarily, the finance director did email over the revised version, but that was the one that we were saying was recently gotten, and that's kind of where we're running into the confusion on communication. So
Gotcha.
I think if we communicate forward that, so that information recently was provided to us. So I think that's one thing that we can kind of check off. But as we go into the next discussions, those are things that we're going to.
And I think that's, and Mr. Chair, I think that's great that you that we had that's a conversation that we have. The expectation is to pass the appropriation. The appropriation, again, is what we send to the state. That is the summarized, that is the summarized document that we send to the state along with the verbiage for the ordinance. That is what we send off to the state in order to, levy taxes, and that's what their expectation is. When we posted it on the agenda, it said the discussion and approval of the appropriation, right? not the discussion and approval of the budget, the internal working document. So I just want to make sure that we have, when we're having these conversations, what the expectation is of me, what the expectation is of my staff, so that we're not confused and or you guys don't think that we're trying to avoid a question, right? I'm providing you what my expectation was. But I'm glad we're having this conversation so we can move through this.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, and this is great conversation. Thank you, because I think that we need to get on board, one accord somewhere. And from a resident perspective, because I've been a resident for so long,
Yes, ma'am.
you know, I want residents I know what I wanted to know as a resident. I know the questions that I had and things that I was looking forward to. So
Okay.
just wanted to clear it up. But thank you guys
Yes, ma'am.
so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, trustee.
I just got a question. Quick question. I know, Administrator, you just stated something very important when you just started talking about the appropriation ordinance and the budget. Actually, on the agenda, it said discussion and approval of ordinance 22 adopting the appropriation ordinance / budget, meaning we would have been voting on both at that time, yes or no?
No.
Because that's what it stated.
No, it said discussion, discussion and approval.
And
guys,
approval.
You guys don't approve a budget.
Okay.
A budget is an internal document, and there's no approval for a budget. It's just the appropriation.
All right, so moving forward, can you make sure that we take off the / budget? Because since the budget is a working document, that's not nothing that we're actually voting on. So if,
That is
even
correct.
if we were discussing the budget, whether the budget should be discussed in the finance meeting and not at a board meeting, because it's only for discussion. My concern is when you were saying that, and I think it would be great that whatever the conversations goes to the finance director and he disseminates that, because it does become very condensed when a lot of people are involved. I took the initiative, and I'm just saying myself, to speak with the fire department chief, because I'd rather talk to them, understand what they're asking for, so I'm not blindsided by seeing all these different numbers, and then we get here and be like, no, that don't look right. So if we're able to talk to the department heads to understand each department, then when we come here, we know why somebody's asking for $40,000, why some, we
Yes, ma'am.
understand that, versus us getting these, and I wasn't here when it first started, I had to leave out, getting this stuff at the last minute, and it's feel like it's being just pushed on us, and then it's like, okay, now we come to a meeting where we are supposed to talk about this so we can move forward to get the appropriation ordinance completed, so it'll be able to be approved by whatever time that the mayor is wanting it approved by. But we can't do it because then it's, well, we don't have time for this and I don't have time for that. I'm not trying to be on, I definitely don't want you to take this very offensively, but I'm gonna say this. If y'all knew that y'all came here to discuss the budget, we talked about it on that Monday, that it was something that couldn't be done in an hour. I feel like it's a slap in our face that y'all didn't make time for it. When the email went out and said that it was a finance committee meeting and what it was in reference to, it should have been a conversation back to say, I'm not gonna be available to be there to go through the whole thing, and this is time consuming. Can you schedule it a day where I'm available? At $100,000 and at $90,000, y'all should be here when we need y'all. That's not fair. I'm just saying that because I feel like to keep pushing it off, and whatever the response came yesterday, like, oh, I can only give you an hour. An hour is going to be not enough time to go through the appropriation ordinance.
So I think in response to what you're saying, respectfully, two things. This is not a job that I have the luxury of not working all day and all night. I work all day, literally all day and all night on this job. I fill out grant applications, I'm submitting forms, I'm answering emails, I'm talking to every single body that we talk to about legal related stuff all day and all night. My phone doesn't stop. My wife hates me because of it, because of this particular job. So respectfully, money should not be part of this conversation, because I work pretty hard for this, and I know the finance director does too. As a matter of fact, I will go further than say pretty hard. I work extremely hard on this particular job. The second thing is that in terms of availability, unfortunately, we just had a timing issue with my family. Somebody very important in our family graduated, and the expectation is that my wife would be available to watch the kids today. She was not. So the expectation was that I would be here. The only reason why I replied to the email at all, as opposed to reach out to Trustee House, is because we've had this conversation on several meetings about communication. And every time we have a conversation about communication, because of the tenor of the relationship with the elected officials, we try to make sure that there's something in writing that says that we reply within a certain way, because phone conversations don't work. So I'll say that to say, respectfully, I understand what you say. Respectfully, we will try to make sure that we make every effort to go through this budget. I think there needs to be an expectation of what it takes to pass a budget, right? And when I say that, I mean, I'll have that conversation with the finance chair. Is it line by line? Am I going to be here 4 hours, 5 hours, 10 hours? Do I need to call off in the morning so I can be here at night? That is the expectation. That is not clear from you guys' standpoint. Budgets are conversations that can be done during the day, over the phone, changes that can be made at any particular time. I have not received any requests from any elected official. Excuse me, one minute, madam. I haven't received anything from any elected official that said make this change or that change. I looked at this budget. Can we remove this line item? Can we reduce this? Can we reduce this? Can we have a conversation about that? I have not received that at all. So I'm saying that communication is a two-way street. Respectfully, there are certain things that can be done right here, and there are certain things that can be done over the phone, via email, via Zoom, via whatever. I just need to know how you guys want to do it, and I want to be able to communicate with you guys how you guys want me to communicate, because again, communication is a two-way street, and I'm trying to be amenable to you guys.
Okay, thank you so much. And just to rebuttal, not to go back and forth, is I think Trustee House did send an email to the finance director asking for the appropriation or however you want to budget / appropriation, however, for us discussion to be itemized. As of, I believe, earlier today, it still has not been sent over. So my question, or I would just say, what I'm going to directly do is send the information that I received from Chief McCain and from Chief Collins and recommendations and changes. I'll send them to the finance director, and then he can communicate with you instead of it being multiple things. I think that's just like each one of us have a committee that we're over. So if Trustee Norwood is wanting to speak to Mr. Moore or whatever, I just think that may make this a smoother transition than it going back and forth, because it's lengthy. We're talking about $26 million, so it's a lengthy process, but at the same time, it's our tax monies. It's where I live.
Okay.
So I want to make sure that when we're doing it the right way. So I did see the email that did state that itemization was requested and that had not been sent.
I believe it had been sent. For the record, it has been sent.
To who?
The finance director did state that earlier in the meeting. And then second thing is that just to be clear, I want to make sure that so we're all on the same page. Is that the expectation for you guys is to go through the budget through a lengthy process, going line by line in a public forum. So whatever revisions that we make, we'll make them in a public forum and not via phone, via previous conversations. You guys want to make whatever adjustments we want to make in a public forum, and then we'll release a second revision or a third revision, whatever it takes. Is that what you're saying?
So,
That's what I'm saying in reference to us. My whole thing is, even with starting the budget, appropriation was sent out, and we got it 2.5 hours before a meeting, and had absolutely no input on it. So now we're doing 5, 6, 7, 12 revisions when we had absolutely, like, it wasn't nothing that came in front of any of our committees or anything.
And if I may chime in as well, because I think what we don't want to, I don't want to go ball down into exactly what was right and wrong, but I do think we had a process before, so I'll work with you on what that process, because we did have kind of to Trustee Belcher's point, where the committees would kind of give information. It will be funneled through the finance chair, and then that reduced the number of revisions dramatically.
Okay.
In terms of what's working. So I think we do have a process that can work. I know this being newer times, some of those things we haven't smoothed out, so we'll work to smooth it out.
And then, if I may, Mr. Chair, so the last thing is that I just want to be careful too, right? So we are constantly back and forth, sending emails and responding to everyone. And when we reply to everyone, we are purposely and with intent violating the Open Meetings Act. So I may only reply to the person that sent the email, right? That is not to throw shade on anybody else that was part of the conversation. It's just that we just don't send out emails to more than a quorum of people, because again, we violate the Open Meetings Act. So if I do not reply to everyone, right, and I reply to only one person in the group, it's because I don't want to violate the Open Meetings Act. I don't want, state's attorney knocking on my door.
I agree. I just think, clerks should reply and communicate directly with the finance chair. I think you laid it out how it should be. It just wasn't done like that. So hopefully moving forward, you can directly connect with the finance chair and move from there.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Ms. Stubbs.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I was here at the last board meeting, and the last budget, I spent 3 hours in that room because I couldn't obtain a copy of it due to the old administrator, Ms. Dorothy Brown. And I wanted to see the budget because I have a stake in this community, and I pay over $22,000 in tax dollars. And so my money and how it's spent is very important to me. And I'm sure it's important to a lot of other residents also. So after the meeting, the last board meeting, I came that Monday and asked for a copy of the budget. I received the appropriation documents, not the budget like I asked for, because I need to see a breakdown on how my tax dollars are spent. I need to know how many employees we have in the village of Dothan. I need to know their salaries. I think I am entitled to that information. I have a document, a copy of a FOIA request dated April the 5th of 2022, and this is just one that I didn't receive. And I can never get an answer through a FOIA request. So the clerk tells me she sends it out to the department, and the department heads were told not to send it back. So I want to ask this question. When you do a breakdown of the budget, Mr. Freeman, are the residents entitled to receive a copy before they vote on the budget?
Absolutely, ma'am. You're entitled to whatever you want.
Okay, because like I said, if I FOIA stuff, I can't get it. And when I asked for the budget, and I was looking for a breakdown, not the appropriation, so the state can see what we're doing. Okay, and I understand that. But we would like to see a breakdown of every department, everybody's salary, how many people is that are on the payroll, really who is employed here. And also, when you amend the budget, and you just stated that you can amend it at any given time, even after the budget is approved, you can amend it before you even approve it or after you approve it. And I understand that too. But my question to that is, do the trustees have an opportunity to vote on the amendment of the budget, and can the residents hear what you're amending?
Is that the question?
Yes.
Okay, so, couple things, yes, if the budget is amended, then yes, there's an entire process, a resolution has to be passed in order for a budget to be amended. And when I say budget, let me be clear, no. So the budget can be changed, the appropriation can be amended. If the appropriation is amended, then the trustees, as well as the mayor, have to vote on a resolution, and they have to pass that resolution, and that resolution is then filed with the ordinance saying that this particular appropriation has been amended and it has to be filed with the state. The appropriation is broad for that reason, and the budget is specific for that reason. The budget is the internal document in which we work with based on the appropriation. And so you are entitled to a copy of the budget, the internal document, right, because it's public information. You are entitled to the appropriation. That's also public information. If we make changes to the budget or we make adjustments to the budget, then if you would like to request a copy of whatever those changes are, you can make whatever request you want to. In terms of answering FOIA requests, I am not privy to whether or not information came to me or whether or not you were supposed to receive it within a certain time. That comes from the clerk's office. But I will say this, if you stop by or if you give me a call, then, and I'll give you my cell phone number before I leave, then I will give you whatever you ask for, and you don't have to do a FOIA request. You can come and you can call me and you can ask me for anything and I'll make sure you have it.
Okay, can I ask you one last question?
Yes, ma'am.
I think this is one last question. And this was pertaining to the bonds.
Yes, ma'am.
You know, this have been my pet peeve about Homewood Disposable forever.
Okay.
And correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes, ma'am.
When we pay our water bill, we also pay for our garbage pickup, correct?
Yes.
Now, in my mind and with my dollars, then I have a problem with taking out a bond for Homewood Disposable when we actually pay for our garbage to be picked up. And Ms. Tangenique, how you doing? So this is a question for you also, because I need to know how much money do we collect from the residents for our garbage pickup yearly, and how much is the bond that's being issued every year to pay Homewood? Because to me, I'm paying twice, and I'm retired, and so I have to be thrifty with my money and manage it properly. I could keep documents on my own records and make sure that I'm doing the right thing with my money. So if you can answer that, and why are we taking out a bond for Homewood when the residents are paying money for the garbage to be picked up? So we like paying twice. We're paying for the bond with our tax dollars, and when we pay our water bill, we're paying for our trash to be picked up. I'm confused.
So,
I'm sorry. I didn't mean. And what are we doing with the money that we collect? The monies that we collect from our garbage pickup. Where is that money going, and how is it being spent?
So, and I would have to get the exact information. So, we were not, and this is me summarizing, we were not collecting enough in water, sewer, and garbage to cover the expenses for Homewood Disposal or the City of Chicago or any other outstanding bonds that we had. The collection rate was low. The problem with the rates, the way that they were set, and this is about water. This has nothing to do with the garbage or the sewer. This is really a water problem, and Trustee House and I have had conversations about this on numerous occasions. When you don't have a certain threshold between how much you're being billed and how much you're collecting in water rates, what ends up happening is you end up owing more because everybody's not paying. And there's historically in Dalton, there's about $1 threshold between what the city is billing us and what we're charging, passing down to our residents. So if one or two or three or four people, and obviously I'm giving you a micro outlook on this, a micro perspective, if one or two people miss their bill, then all of a sudden it becomes a deficit. Well, the deficit became so large in collections that we got behind. And so we issued a bond to pay for previous money that we owed to Homewood Disposal, as well as the city of Chicago. So that is why you're being double billed, because years and years and years, and I don't know exactly how many years, but we stopped being able to keep up with payments for water, garbage, and sewer. And so this is why the bonds were issued, to alleviate the debt. And I'm pretty sure that it's a long-term strategy, because we're getting ready to refinance the bonds. But historically, that has been the issue. There has to be a higher threshold in terms of how much you collect and how much you're billing, in order to make sure that when people don't pay their bills, that the rest of the community has sort of, picked up the slack. And that's what happened, ma'am.
Mr. Freeman,
Yes, ma'am.
in 2014, prior administration, the mayor took it upon himself to make a deal with the city of Chicago, and at that particular time, it was over $2 million owed to Chicago for the water.
Yes, ma'am.
And that escalated, shut up, phone. That escalated, I'm sorry, that escalated to over $8 million.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. I'm listening, ma'am.
Yeah, that escalated over to $8 million, and that went on the backs of the residents, so we paying twice for that too.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, I need to know how much do you, and I'm not combining all of them together,
Yes, ma'am.
because garbage is separate. I
Yes.
know you have to pay Chicago, so we won't go into, what is it called? I can't think of the name of it. Receivership. Thank
To
you.
avoid
Thank you,
receivership.
trustee. So we won't go into receivership.
Yes, ma'am.
With the city of Chicago. But you should be collecting enough money from the garbage to pay for Homewood Disposable without taking out a bond. If I'm not mistaken, I want to say you collecting over $2 million for.
We collect, even every 3 months, $448,000 is collected. On a yearly basis, $1.9 million is collected. Even if you minus 30%, which Chris stated in a finance meeting, that 30% of the people didn't pay, we would still be at $1.4 million, enough to cover Homewood Disposal without a bond.
And that's what, I gathered, that we do collect enough money to pay Homewood without taking out a bond, and maybe somebody need to look into that, because I don't like being double billed. I can do other things with my money.
And I don't think we took out a bond for the $8 million to the city.
No, not the $8 million. I'm
I
talking
heard you
about
say that.
for Homewood.
I'm taking it. We took out-
No, you're not taking any money out for Chicago. You're paying back a debt.
Yeah, but now we need to take out a bond for that. Pay that out.
I'm saying
so I'm gonna
Homewood
kinda-
Disposable garbage
We'll try to
pickup.
kind of,
Use the money.
okay, I know we were on, I want to ask Trustee Stubbs, if we're going to conclude your question. If you have a question, I know the
Yeah.
employees, we are going to reconvene and revisit. Please, I would ask that, any questions for future discussion as well. I didn't want to, I wasn't saying like completely on this, I want to kind of.
That's fine.
set
I
the
know
tone, but,
everybody have, a time schedule, and
Yeah.
I appreciate
So we wanna
the
make sure
time,
that-
and I appreciate you answering the questions.
Yes, ma'am.
And I look forward to talking to you soon.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
Thank
so, yeah, they want to be mindful of the request from from Ms. Tangenique as well as Administrator. I think the board will be here if there's any questions that we may be able to answer, but I know you had other. I did. That seat only gets hotter, man. Okay, all right, but the board is here if there are any additional questions. I will ask any residents, anybody that have questions that we're unable to, please feel free. I'll either jot them down now or if you email them, we'll make sure that they're forwarded ahead of time for our future meeting. So are there any additional questions?
Just what's so different about how you all get stuff, because in the past administration, there's never been this problem, so that's why, Mr. Freeman, when you was explaining to us, it seemed like you're trying to make us think it's so hard when all the other previous administrations, they always had stuff together when the residents would come in, we could get the everything off the table, what we were talking about, everything has changed. So it seemed like you're making it seem like it's such a hard thing now, when all the previous administration, they got it right. The people had the information, the trustees had the information for them to vote on. So now it's such a big problem, so either the people that's working is competent, or I don't know, that people are saying that you're telling them not to help. And I'm just trying to be respectful. I don't understand why it's such a big problem now.
For the record, no one's telling anyone not to help. I don't even like to try to use that language. I think that the information that we are trying to deliver, we're trying to deliver it in a timely manner. I think that respectfully to you and to the trustees and everyone involved, there are multiple things that are going on with regard to this administration and this board. I think that we are trying to do the best that we can given the information that we have and try to get it to you guys, everyone, in a timely manner, including the mayor and the rest of the trustees. I would ask that you be a tad bit patient with us, as I am new. I came in January. Ms. Miller came in January. We are trying to learn the nuances of these particular council members, as well as the mayor's office, as well as the residents, and we want to make sure that whatever the expectations are, we are able to fulfill those expectations. Just allow a little patience, and please have a tad bit of empathy, if you would, for the situation given the circumstances. And I know this is not the forum to discuss the circumstances, but I would ask for a tad bit of empathy. That's all I can request.
But I even notice as a resident, when I come in to try to get things done, the staff seem like they don't even want to help you, or they're afraid. And I'm just being honest. They, oh, I can't do that. I can't print this out. They just want to take the money and that's it. And it was not like that.
I cannot speak on behalf of.
I think that's something you need to look into if your staff is afraid and don't want to help the residents.
What I would ask is that if you had a specific interaction with a specific employee, please pass that information on to me. Please pass that information on to Ms. Medina. She's my executive assistant, and we will make sure that for whatever reason your concern is addressed. To be fair, there are people that come in here and say that this experience is a wonderful experience. People come in here and they say all the time, hey, listen, your staff was great. Everybody was nice to me. I couldn't believe I got in and out. There are people that come in here and say, hey, listen, we had a bit of a line, and maybe you guys need to staff up. So we get concerns and criticism, and we also get praise for a lot of things that we do. Again, every organization evolves, right? We have to allow for this organization to evolve. We are trying our best to reorganize it the best that we can, and it will get to the point where we can meet your expectations. The goal is to always strive to meet your expectations. We apologize in advance if we are not meeting your expectations, but the goal is to get there. The easiest way for us to address those concerns is for you to give it to us.
Well, what, I had a problem with my water bill, and it took a couple of months
Yes, ma'am.
to finally get it together. And I know I spoke with you, and some things get turned over, but my thing is, I'm paying taxes, but I have to read my own meter. That's a problem for me, because y'all hiring like crazy in other departments, and here I gotta work, and I might get a check from the village, and I gotta read my own meter.
We are working on that. As a matter of fact, myself, the mayor, Ms. Miller. I've had this conversation with Trustee House.
Public Works is getting a lot of
We have been busting our hump to get digital water meters. When I say busting our hump, we are breaking our necks to get new water meters. So they are around the corner. We are working incredibly hard to get them. I apologize that you have to go through this, but when I tell you we are working furiously to get new digital water meters so you guys don't have to do that.
But can I tell you too, some of the residents on my block, they're afraid to let anybody from the village in their home because of the background. So if you read the meter, you gotta go inside somebody's home. That's the problem. My meter's on the outside.
Yes, ma'am.
So don't nobody from the village gotta come up in my house.
Yes, ma'am.
But the residents are talking on my block
Yes, ma'am.
that they don't want nobody from the village in their house, and I think that is horrible. That the residents are saying that they're afraid because they have a lot of felons that's working within the village.
Okay, so I appreciate that. I appreciate your comment. I do not have a comment on whether or not somebody is qualified to go read a meter or not. I don't think that this is the right place for that. I don't think that this is the right place to talk about someone's background. Again, I would ask that anyone have empathy for anyone who has gone through anything in their life, period. I don't know what your particular circumstances are or your dealings with anyone is, but I don't feel like this is the right place. And again, I feel like maybe there needs to be more empathy. Thank you.
Okay, sorry, my last question. I think we'll come right on up there, if you don't mind. Yeah, I know we were doing.
I just wanted to ask a question of the village administrator. And he can't convene his department heads to show up with information. If you're the village administrator,
Yes, sir.
your department head should be listening to you. You give them directions to show up with information on a certain day so you can get, and then you can pass it on.
Yes,
But
sir.
you keep saying you the village administrator, that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate your comment.
Okay, with that, I think that, any additional comments, questions? Hearing none, we will be reconvening for the budget discussion, June 8th. I make a motion that we adjourn.
Motion that we adjourn this evening's finance meeting.
Okay, then I'll second, well, I think trustee Steve second, motion and second it. Roll calls, trustee House is aye, trustee Steve. Trustee Brown.
Aye.
Okay, 3 ayes. Thanks to everybody for coming out, and we appreciate your time.